What's up, people? Time for another Rauta review, and this time it's all about Finnish death metal with Corpsessed, Skeletal, Grotesquery, and this one is a live album. As you can see, this one was recorded in live at Brain Crusher 2022, so still quite fresh from the oven, as this was released in late May 2023. Now, those of you who are familiar with the band know what to expect. Dark, kind of a traditional death metal, somewhere between, all-American typical brutal death metal and between the more Nordic style of death metal. That is, this is not definitely the kind of a Swedish style, but yet not exactly the kind of a typical American ones. Think of Cannibal Corpse, Death, D-Side, Obituary, and so on. But I would say, still, that being mentioned, Corpsessed definitely has some connections style-wise to a lot of American bands, especially those who are more specialized in darker aspects of the style. Some would say, yeah, there's certain kind of immolation present, or, I don't know, incantation, but where some of those bands are kind of hard to get into, like a little bit curvy on the riff side, and kind of as opposite to being kind of catchy and, rememberable. Corpsessed kind of falls between that style, or whatever, and Cannibal Corpse. I'm looking for a certain kind of bands, but really none of those obvious names. I mean, there are probably lots of obvious names, and people should be like, yeah, I should be mentioning this and that. They don't really pop into my head at the beginning, during this conversation, talk, rant, whatever. But here you have Corpsessed from Finland since 2007 and all that stuff. Now 4 albums in, and I think Succumb to Rauta was one of the best ones of the year 2022. So maybe even these review scores, and at least my own opinion, go into pointing out that the band has been on a slight rise. That is, the early ones were pretty decent, but these later ones are the ones that, in my opinion, are the better ones. So it's more like Corpsessed has been evolving, getting better over the years, which is, of course, the direction you are looking for. But unfortunately, not all bands do that. Now, if you click similar artists, there are quite a few bands that are listed here. Some of them are from Finland, some from Germany, some from United States, indeed. And there are certain kind of bands which fall into this category. I mean, the rather obvious ones are the Finnish names like Desolate Shrine and Lying Ruins, but I was trying not to mention Finnish names because I'm more like thinking something else. Because sometimes it feels like the bands from the same scene have the kind of a similarity going on, and this especially applies to Desolate Shrine and Lying Ruins. But here, if you take a look at these more voted names, you can clearly see names such as Incantation dropped there, so maybe there's some truth to that. Now, like I said, with the 4 albums in, the band has pretty much evolved and honed their style to what it could be. And I don't know if there's much room for improvement unless the band really goes from some catchy material despite or without giving up their style, which is the kind of a darker yet heavy, brutal, technical stuff. Not maybe so much brutal style, but this once again depends how you define brutal death metal and just kind of classic death metal. Be it as it may, like I said, these albums are something so good that it kind of is almost like begging for a live album, at least for the people who really like live albums. Now, there comes the but. But I am not into that much into live albums, so for that reason, obviously, I'm not going to praise this as much as the albums before this one. First of all, this kind of death metal comes with a really good production. I mean, when it's optimal and really good, like Succumb to Rauta. And obviously live situation is a little bit different. That is, while obviously the songs are the same, and this is actually quite good of a live recording, it still is kind of a lesser version of that, in my opinion. But there are a lot of people who like live recordings for the very feeling, the atmosphere, what live recording is all about. Having audience present and what have you. Now, the thing here is, on this live recording, you don't really hear that audience presence that much. They are barely even, those stage speeches, like not too many words are said, which is, I guess, a very, very Finnish thing to do. But that kind of separates this one from the rather typical live recordings where you can hear audience going Yeah, and the live speech ones. For example, what Slayer does, great, having a little bit break between the songs and saying something interesting, which is not present with the studio album. With this one, the difference is quite different. So there are not too many live spoken parts, and as such, it kind of, diminishes the meaning of being a live recording. Now, that being said, however, if you do like the band, if you do like live recordings, there's no reason why not to check this one out and maybe purchase it blindly even. But if you are not a big fan of live recordings, maybe stick to the ones. So this really comes down to the very matter of taste. If you like live recordings, go for it. If you don't, this isn't your cup of tea. But obviously, you decide for yourself. For fans of Corpsessed, rather safe purchase. And those who don't know the band yet, I would say start with the studio albums. And if you like them, go for this one as well. There you have it. Links provided in the description box. Should you have comments or questions, let me know. Bye bye.